So this is our topic for this morning, no? Introduction to edge computing, and then followed by a second talk about edge computing, but in a more detailed way. So our discussion would be key components, challenges and limitations, cloud versus edge, no? For the similarities, and then cloud versus edge for the differences. No? So what is actually edge computing? No? So if you've been to my talk last week na for the cloud, now we're discussing the edge. It's on the basic sense, no? It's a distributed computing paradigm, and where we would want to make computing, no, and processing, no, and to some degree storage of data as instantaneous as possible by bringing this, no, computing systems on those devices that's generating this data, no, or maybe an intermediary where it collects a lot of this information before fully processing it centrally. So advantage, of course, would be you have better control over data. There is a cost reduction depending on how you would look at it. And you could provide faster insights, no, and actions. No? We'll discuss that in a bit too. Well, overall goal would be to streamline whatever operations you are running on. So here's an example of edge computing topology, no, from Spiceworks. Well, you're not eliminating the cloud, no? Cloud is still there, no? It's actually one of I would say, the brains of the operations here, no? Or a data center, for that matter. But you are trying to import, no? This information from edge devices that's been generating this the telemetry, no? You have your IoTs, autonomous vehicles, telecom towers, OTs, no? ICS and SCADA, no? Generating this data, sensing this data, and then sending it, no? Ideally to edge computing platform before processing everything and sending everything to the cloud. No? Then for a brief history, no, of edge computing, we are basing this on CDNs, no, that was developed in the 1990s to serve videos and other content, no, to consumers. No? Since it was found early on that, well, bandwidth wasn't big in the 90s. And if all of these newly connected computers to the internet would be retrieving this information on one server or maybe a few servers, no, on a central location, ultimately the bandwidth of that data center would be saturated. Although we didn't have terms like then now, no, that content would become viral or things like that. No, they are still experiencing this aspect, especially during the dot-com bubble, no, late 90s to early 2000s. So they evolved this into what we call CDNs, no, where they would be hosting this content across multiple servers nearer to the consumers. No? So when you request for a content, you would be directed to the server that's nearest you, typically, and hopefully, no, it's within your ISP, so that you would be able to retrieve it with less latency and then less bandwidth consumption, especially, let's say, in the Philippines, no, where most contents back then and even now, no, is coming from abroad. No? So you don't saturate the submarine cables, no, for our internet connectivity for those contents because it's hosted locally within our ISPs. Okay? So this is also how Netflix, no, and other content distribution networks like maybe Spotify and Amazon Prime, no, that how they do their content delivery. Um, Typically, their central server is mainly for account management, no, and direction on, okay, this user is coming from Singapore. There is a data center in Singapore that hosts that content that they are requesting. So you're gonna be directed to that server, no, and retrieve your video or whatever content you want, no, from that edge server. And you don't, well, basically, again, you don't saturate the central servers, no, in the US for this matter. And let's say in terms of Netflix, no, typically ISPs would want to host their own edge server for Netflix, or what they call cache servers. No? And what's happening here is, um, ISPs would sometimes coordinate with Netflix to have their own Netflix box within their data center. And what would happen there would be users would get this video in a very efficient manner. No? They don't have to go outside the ISP. And it's going to be a local traffic for the ISP too. So they don't have any interconnectivity cost, no, to get that video. And another optimization that they're doing is they do predict, no? Let's say, on a simple sense, no? Let's say there's a new movie that's gonna be released, no? On Netflix. They would pre-seed this content across multiple edge gateways, no? And edge servers, so that when the time that the movie is actually released, no, the users will not need to get it from a central location. The content is already ready. In the edge servers within the ISPs, no? So they would be able to smoothly play those videos. Because if not, and imagine you released a good movie tonight, and everyone else is getting it from a central server. No? The user experience is not going to be good. No? Everyone will be flooding those the servers. So this way, when they're distributing their content or their cache, um, they're able to optimize their operations, no? And for the ISPs that has this edge servers, um, it also reduces their cost, no? Because again, they don't have to consume bandwidth for internet. Okay. And to a degree, they have some intelligence that and analytics that they're running on this. No? So, let's say you are viewing a series, no, and you're the only one viewing that series for for that region. No? Well, of course, most likely the cache server will not have that content. But let's say you are watching episode one, and based on your profile, no, you binge watch. No? You watch all 10 episodes in one sitting. So some algorithms of streaming, no, would be able to predict that and then precede, no, send that data to the local cache server within your ISP, so that maybe you'll have some lag in retrieving the first episode because it's being retrieved from a central location. No? But the second episode will be much smoother because the content is already there, no, on the edge server due to prediction and analytics. Okay. So I like this comic strip, no, on how they're stating how edge computing came to be. Where in the era of personal computing, no, and we have a server in the office. Uh, we have our own workstations, no, which worked, no, for quite some time, and then came the notion of the cloud. No? Well, virtualization is actually not a new thing. No? It has been there since the 70s, no? But it became mainstream, no? Around 2000s, no? And of course 2010s, no? With the cloud. So they started moving most workload, if not everything, to the cloud, and they started saying that local server don't need this anymore. So you connect to the cloud. And then while it worked, no, for quite some time, they realized that on some scenarios, no, it's not better to move to the cloud. So they retreated at some point, and they realized that storage cost has been going down, compute cost has been going down. We got good processors with low power consumptions like the ARM processors. So now they're able to have all of these optimizations locally, no? With edge computing. No? Um, so yeah, I like this. It's a bit funny, but it's actually true. No? So why edge computing? So again, we are generating a lot of data, no, on endpoints, no? And if we would be sending this, no, in the Netflix example is we are consuming, no? But what if we are generating data and sending it to a centralized platform? No? Imagine, let's say I'll give you two scenarios. No? One would be autonomous vehicles. No? So imagine you are running an autonomous vehicle, or even telemetry for that matter. No? Sending all of if all of these vehicles are connected and sending them to a centralized server, cloud computing could handle it now with scalability. But well, at least for the Philippines side, no, most of these cloud data centers are outside the country, so there would be issues with latency. Of course, cannot beat physics, no. Even though it's speed of light, there's still gonna be some transmission latency there. There's also the issue of volume, no? The amount of these devices connected, sending this information, no, to a central location would become an issue too, no? While you could solve it with cloud elasticity, no, to scale this compute nodes to process those information, typically you'll have cost naman as issue, no? And I've seen scalability and elasticity become a problem with some organizations where they did not design it well. And then it's either there is a viral thing on their app, no, that enabled millions of users to go to their content and check it out, only to wake up in the morning that they have $40,000 bill, no, because apparently they didn't put the limit on the scalability, and the cloud spun up a lot of instances to service that volume, no? So what are the key components, no, when you try to deploy and design, no? Design and deploy edge computing, no? So we have here the data flow, no? Edge devices to edge gateways, and then eventually to edge data centers, and typically would be the cloud too. Data is processed and analyzed at various stages, no, along the path, no, depending on how you would design it. Okay, and we want this distributed approach, no, to help reduce latency, improve data privacy, no, especially if you don't want to upload all this raw information to the cloud. You could maybe do some masking in the edge gateways, no, before uploading it centrally to a cloud or an edge data center. And then you could also make efficient use, no, of network bandwidth, simply because you are uploading information, but not the whole raw information. You're storing it somewhere in between, or maybe on the edge devices itself, or both. So, edge devices. These are physical devices or sensors, no, that collects, process data locally. It could be anything: smartphone, laptops, cameras, cars, IoT devices, robots, drones, um, anything that could compute and sense data and connect, no, that would be your typical edge devices. Um, Built-in processing capabilities has been there, no? Has been there for the past 10 years, I would say, no? Which enables us to perform basic data analysis, no, and filtering before sending this data to the next stage, no, in edge computing architecture. So this, in turn, no, would help reduce the amount of data to be transmitted, no? And of course, less data would mean less congestion and better latency. Um, think of this scenario, no, where let's say you have a CCTV camera, no, an IP camera that doesn't process anything. It sees the area, no, but it's not intelligent enough to do any processing. So it's just a visual sensor. Uh, Grab that information and then send it to maybe a DVR, no, or an edge gateway, no. But yeah, managing CCTV IP camera at home with 10, 15, maybe 20 cameras, I think that's still doable, no? But let's say you're managing a mall, no, or a lot of malls for that matter, no, and you want visibility on that. It's highly unlikely that someone would design, no, uh, an IP camera solution that all cameras would be connecting directly to a central server or a data center, no? So what you would typically do is you'll have an edge gateway that would serve as an intermediary, no, between these edge devices and maybe a central cloud infrastructure. So let's say per building, no, they would all these cameras with whichever building they are deployed in or nearer, they would be grabbing this raw data and processing it locally. And typically for the central location, you'll get just telemetry, no, or on which cameras are up, which cameras are currently transmitting, which has detection, no? So the detection part actually for edge computing, um, if you have enough processing power on the camera itself, that could also be done on the camera itself. So you don't even have to store those raw video to the edge gateways, no? you would just be processing it from the camera. You see a person, you're programmed to see a person or a vehicle or a license plate. No? You detect that, and then you send that information to the edge gateway. Edge gateway would do some other processing and then maybe send that very specific snippet, no, to the cloud, no, for safekeeping. No? In case, let's say, um, there's a catastrophe or natural disaster on the building, no? If the data gets transmitted to the cloud on a separate geolocation, no? That data would be safe. Okay. And yeah, the processing could either be done on the edge device or the edge gateway, no? If the device is not capable, but the benefit would be you don't have to send all this raw data to the data center. No? So you are basically designing it to be more efficient. No? Then for the edge data centers, no? So these are, I would say, localized or smaller scale data center, no? But it could also be directly to the cloud. No? So there's a mix here, no, on do we actually need edge data center or could we go straight to the cloud? I would say that depends on your design and the amount of data you're actually gonna process. No? So um, again, this edge data center typically are done with putting this compute and storage capacity near to the edge computing. As mentioned, no, typically cloud, especially for the Philippines, would be outside the country. No? So this could be another intermediary geographically wise. No? And you could store, no, more powerful edge applications because now you're not restricted with a location. So this typically would be sitting on a data center with enough power, cooling, and bandwidth, no? And of course, larger volumes of data, most likely you're going to be using storage area network here, no? And on some degree, this could also be integrated into telecom towers, no? And commercial buildings or other industrial sites. Then, of course, we have still, no, the cloud. This is, well, so the cloud, no? Everything would lead back to the cloud. No? All roads lead to the cloud. This would now handle tasks, no, if we designed it properly, that are not real time, no, and requires more resources, not time sensitive, not real time, or require resources, no, that's already available at the edge. No? Chances are this would be telemetry or alerts, sometimes critical alerts, or faults. No? So this is more of management, I would say. No? But yeah, you could still grab information. Here you could store it, no? But again, you would typically need to design it properly. Again, you don't want a flood of your IoTs, no? Sending raw data to the cloud because of a misconfiguration or a bad design. And then eventually you are paying for the cloud capacity. Well, in fact, you could have actually do the processing on the edge devices or the edge gateway itself. Then, of course, you have the apps, no, for analytics. And I would say this typically, again, gets deployed on the edge device itself on the gateway. As mentioned a while ago, if you have, let's say, a person detecting a CCTV camera or a plate number reading a CCTV camera, you don't want that raw stream, no, to be processed on an edge gateway or even up to the data centers. No? If the camera would be able to catch that, process it, and then now just send maybe a text, no? If possible, and a screenshot of, let's say, a car plate reading application, no? And send that to you rather than sending all this raw data, no, to the cloud infrastructure. Okay? Okay, but this one is going to be very specific and because you don't want to run a lot of analytics that's not actually needed on the device. It could consume space, it could consume CPU. And one thing that we'll see in the limitation, of course, is power consumption for edge devices. Because a lot of this would be operating on battery. No? And as you process, no, and as you process more and the processor generates more heat, no? So does the degradation of the battery power. No? It might not last long. So what are the challenges and limitations, no? For edge computing? No? So we got here a list, no? That we'll be discussing in a bit. No? So first is limited computing power and storage. No? So edge devices, they have less processing power and storage, no? Than centralized data centers. Of course, again, centralized data centers, you are in a controlled environment. You have power, you have cooling, you have generators in case the power goes out from the grid. They could still operate. But edge devices does not have this. No? Again, a lot of them would be, especially sensors, no, that's deployed across, would be operating on battery. Um, and while there are a lot of advances in processing power and battery usage, no, if you take a look at yung deployment of Apple Silicon, no, they are uh, I would say breaking the Moore's law. But they are generating these chips, no, that does a lot of processing at a very low power cost, no? And that's the reason that even though with that high speed of a processor that they put on their products, no, they could last long. In their daily usage. No? So I wouldn't say gone are the jokes where you need always a battery pack with your Apple products, no? But uh, there's still better Android battery consumption, no? than Apple. But still, uh, they have uh, they have done their R&D well, and they have been able to extend this battery life with uh, changing, no, how they design the processor and how they consume power with this processor. No? So yeah. Um, with this, no, if you're running on battery and you want to reduce, no, the consumption, typically you would throttle down the CPU so that it would last long. The problem with that is, of course, you limit, no, what kind of task, no, or the complexity of those tasks that you could perform on those devices. So you when designing this, no, you typically would do cost benefit analysis, no, and balance off with this trade-off, no. Do we need this let's say in I am a security guy, no? So one of our recommendations is usually to turn on encryption. But you could see some equipment that when you turn on encryption, it's supposed, let's say, without encryption, an IoT device would last 6 months. No? But if you turn on encryption, it would be reduced to 2 months. No? So are you willing to trade off, no, security versus longevity of those batteries? No? That there's no right or wrong answer. It's going to be dependent on your situation there. Okay? And speaking of security concerns, no, again, aside from that encryption trade-off, no, introducing more devices and nodes, no, into a network, of course, increases your attack surface. And especially with IoTs that is wireless, no, and deployed outside, no, these devices could be vulnerable, no, or not could be, they are vulnerable to physical tampering and unauthorized access. So a lot of your engineers, no, so you know that if you get physical access to device and you could dump, no, those configuration via JTAG, you could get the security settings. No? What's the wireless SSID? What's the encryption key? It's there. I mean, it has to be stored on the device for it to be able to connect on boot up. No? So it's there. And if someone grabs that device and is able to dump those config, and what if that config is shared across all your thousands, in the hundreds of thousands of devices? No? So um, what you would typically do now is ensure each and every of these IoT would be a different credential to the network. But now you have a problem of key management. No? So that's this again, you do a trade-off, no, on security versus convenience too. And again, turning on encryption on most IoTs before. No? Right now there are optimizations, so you don't have much reduction of power consumption. No? And there are also research for cryptography that does consume, no, less power as compared to traditional crypto primitives. Next, there's also deployment cost. Now, deploying IoTs, it's not like an app where you develop a software and then you let your consumers now run it on their devices. So, so typically now, you instead of just cloud that's OpEx based, no, you pay as you consume. Now you would have to have equipment that you need to buy, no, and data centers to lease or build, and the cost somehow increases, no? Kasi well, at this point you will most likely gonna be needing a capex, no, to deploy this, no. But now, of course, you only deploy this kind of architecture after you have considered that well, first, no, sending everything to the cloud is not going to be viable because of various reasons that we discussed a while ago. So even though there would be a cost and the problem would be a latency uh, in what do you call this, a latency in the device um, transmitting, no, to the central location, then you would have um, done the math, no, and go with, okay, it's better to uh, procure, no, edge computing and deploy edge computing rather than sending everything to the cloud, no? And because our application or our environment needs that kind of deployment, no? Another is interoperability and standardization. So this is an issue with edge computing because, well, you want this to be seamless communications, no? And interoperable between these components, no? But if you're buying, no, different solutions from different vendors, they might say that they are compliant with certain protocol standards, no? But you won't really be able to tell until you uh, have two products from different vendors talk to each other. And I've seen it a couple of times where vendor A claims that they are supporting this standard, vendor B claims to be supporting the same standard, no? But when you link them up, they are not talking to each other, or they have some quirks. They would talk to each other, but vendor B interprets a message differently from vendor A, and then chaos ensues. No? So it does happen, no? And it is a challenge. And while it's better, no, to get all the components from one vendor, because now you only have one vendor to choke in case anything goes wrong, they should have tested it also properly. Because if you mix vendors, typically they will not ensure interoperability, and they will just say, "Oh, we are running on the same standard, so up to you to check and test it." There's also well, a problem with network connectivity. No? Again, these IoTs typically would be well, you're better if you have cables running on it for connectivity. But some sensors, especially on the remote locations, no, let's say weather sensors or autonomous vehicles, or even not just autonomous vehicles, even vehicle networks, no, they would most likely be running on wireless connectivity. So the stability of this connectivity is, of course, dependent on the signal to noise ratio to the tower, or maybe on some areas, no, say for a vehicle network, no, you're in the mountains, there's not really a cell site nearby, no, you'll get blind spots, no, or disconnected because of terrain. No? So this is going to be an issue. Aside from high latency, you have limited bandwidth, no? So you need to really design the system, no, on what data would be processed on-prem and what data needs to be sent out, no, to the edge computing data center. So this is an issue. And ideally, these devices could, well, again, depending on your scenario, it's best to be able to operate it, to operate them independently, especially if the connectivity is intermittent. Okay. And then just what do you call this? Follow up, no? The moment you have got connectivity back, no? To the processing or do the sending of telemetry after that. Issue also of scalability, where there's again number of connected devices would increase, no, the amount of data it generates. So this edge computing system must be able to scale, no, efficiently, and efficiently also comes with a cost. No, that doesn't necessarily mean that you could scale and do elastic expansion on the cloud. Now you should do it. Again, there's a huge cost involved if you leave that out of control. Again, I've seen a lot of companies scratch their head when they see the bill of these cloud providers because they did not put any limitations or metrics, no, on to what extent would they be able to uh, call, no, the scalability of this cloud computing instances. Power consumption and management. No? So again, many of these edge devices would be deployed in remote or resource-constrained environments. So limited power and environment also affects, no, batteries. No? So again, if it's too cold, if it's too hot, no, the capacity of this battery is reduced. If you are on a remote environment, there might be a chance that you are charging no via a solar. No, what if there is a storm, no, or a dust, no, goes and affects the efficiency of your solar panels. No, it might not be able to um charge it properly. No, so how do you do maintenance? No? Do you actually send manual individual somewhere, no, where the sensors are located and clean it up, no, or if it does conk out, no, do you replace the battery? Is it better to replace the battery or just replace the whole device itself, no? And deploy a new one and then bring that device to a warehouse where you would do the battery replacement. So uh, depends on the solution, no? But that's those are the questions now we are asking when we are designing edge computing and IoTs, no? Environment. And speaking of maintenance and and management too, again, I've seen a lot of deployment that they will not do the troubleshooting on site. No? They will just replace the device itself because they said that it's more efficient rather than going there, no, with all your parts and tools, no, to break open those devices only to find out, no, that the packaging has been very brittle because of environment, no, and when you open it, it broke, no, um, and you don't have a spare casing. So they would just, most of them would just go replace the entire device, no, and again repair this in a central location, no, and refurbish it, no, for redeployment on other instances. Okay. So what are the similarities, no, for cloud and edge? So again, both of them would be used, no, for futuristic use case like 5G autonomous vehicles. No? They typically would need hybrid environment. Kasi imagine, um, you are in a car, no, and you are running an autonomous vehicle, no, that self-drives itself. No? But you got a design, no, that everything is decided centrally. I mean, no one does this, but just for humor me, think of it that way. You're in a highway and then suddenly there's a dead spot, no? And someone or something, no, crossed the road and you have a sensor, no? The car detected niya, okay, there's someone or something crossing the road. No, but the decision to hit the brakes or swerve, no, would be commanded by the central cloud. Unfortunately, you cannot connect the central cloud, and you know, what would the vehicle do? Now, of course, that's a safety issue. No? Current design would have compute power within the vehicle itself, no, enough to decide to hit the brakes, check the sensors if there's no cars uh, that could be collided on the sides. No, they could swerve and be safe, no, and not hit anything. So yeah, and then just report that telemetry for analytics or improvements, no, after you got connectivity back. No? So again, you don't want to be in the situation that you are at the mercy of the cloud environment and suddenly you got disconnected, no, for one reason or the other. It might not be the fault of blind spots. No? It could be suddenly the tower that you're connected to run out of power, no? Due to well, some issues with the grid. No? So how would you be able to connect to the cloud and get instruction to do I hit the brakes or do I swerve? No? Yeah, well, that's just a scenario. But typically on the design, no, you have that compute power within the vehicle itself. And with that, no, again, the amount of data generated by, let's say, an autonomous vehicle, no, the sensors, the telemetry, the visual, no, because they use lidars and cameras to detect this um, um, obstacles, no. Um, Transmitting this centrally, no, would require a lot of bandwidth. No? So, what we see on this design was they are processing it here and they just sending telemetry data or text. Some of them text already, no, so to be more efficient, no, to a central location, making it not dependent, no, on them. No? So they could operate without any connectivity, but they need from time to time, no, to connect to get updates, to send information of any faults on the system, no, for maintenance and repairs too. No? So you still have connectivity, but you are not required to be tethered 100% of the time. Okay. Then there's accessible automation. No? So telecoms sometimes are already implementing this network automation on the edge. No? So I've seen deployments of intelligent towers where on scenarios like a tower goes out again due to some maybe fault na equipment or power outage. No? Towers within the area would degrade themselves a bit, no, and do a redirection of their beam signal, no, to the area that has now a blind spot, no, to service it, even though it's a degraded fashion, no, that's still a lot better than having those users, no, on that area be disconnected. No? So the towers would auto configure either via a beamforming antenna or robotics. No, they would physically point their antenna automated on those area that had connectivity loss. No? Um, there's also a streamlining of analytics. So we've done an example a while ago about CCTVs, where again you don't want to send all those raw video stream, no, to a central location. Again, depending on the number of cameras, sometimes it might work, but imagine hundreds or thousands of cameras, then that would not be feasible. No? So you would want to have this raw data processed at the edge device or maybe at the edge gateway, no, if they don't have that processing power. Then no, and have this patterns, telemetry or text, no, being sent to a central location for decision making. And what I've seen some deployments, no, if there is, let's say, an alert, no, on let's say a bank, no, there's an alert of person detection at midnight, no, in a branch, no, there would be an alert. And when you click that alert, no, that device, sorry, that deployment, no, would either retrieve the full video feed from that branch or the edge server near that branch, or they would have already a snippet, no, maybe a 10-second snippet of that video, and they want to review more, no, what happened 5 minutes before and 5 minutes after, then they could retrieve it from an edge gateway storage, no, or even on the camera itself. Sometimes they would have this redundancy where the edge device would have storage, no, they're storing it. Maybe they could store it for maybe 5, 10 hours, no, but the edge device, its gateway, no, would be able to store it for maybe 2 to 3 months. No? So what they're just after is in case something goes wrong with the edge gateways, no, and they lost the data due to some hardware failure, no, they would still have some maybe 5 to 10 hours on the device itself, no, that they could retrieve. And they're also doing a risk analysis where if that device gets stolen, right, or destroyed, no, on site, naturally or man-made, they would have a video feed on the edge gateway. Hopefully, that actor should not be able to get to the edge gateway. So they would still have some videos. So again, I would consider that more of a redundancy thing, storing it on the device and on the edge gateways. Now, similarities on the flexible pricing models. This mainly applies to cloud because, well, that's the OpEx based. For edge computing, the flexible part is, well, how much edge devices do you or could you afford to deploy? And with these edge devices, no, it's not only the device itself. You need to factor in maintaining the servers, no, the batteries, the connectivity, if you have to buy it from a third-party telcos, no, and the personnel, no, for IT security and maintenance. No? So while it is flexible, no, sometimes your deployment requires you to buy this upfront, no? And that would be a cost issue that you might need to well consider, no, properly. If not, then you'll be surprised, no, that you thought that you could be flexible with the cost in the cloud, no, but in the edges, you would have for the most part, no, you would have upfront payment. I'm not sure. I haven't seen it yet. That edge IoT devices is being bought by consumers in an OpEx fashion, but it is possible. I mean, some other entity could provide the upfront cost and then lease it to uh, consumers. No, well, to a degree, no, that's happening in cellular phones. No, if you buy a plan on a telco, no, with a cellular phone, typically they would upfront the cost, no, and you are just paying it na amortized across 2 years. No? So that's a similar, I would say, similar scenario there, but not quite. There's also hassle-free regulatory compliance, but I would say this also maintains fairly leaning towards cloud computing rather than edge. But of course, if you buy an edge computing that would be used for, let's say, industrial plants or utilities or transportation, they would need, of course, still to pass certain regulatory compliance, no? For them to work. Now, let's say a brief example, no? For cars, I've seen devices that you have to solder it. No? I've seen a battery operated device, no, in the cars that has to be soldered, no, yung battery itself, no, because of the vibrations in the car, no, there is a chance that that battery might be dislodged, no, if it's not soldered, no. So even though yung typical approach for standard consumers was just, diba, you could easily replace the battery because it's not soldered. For vehicles, no, it's one of their standards for regulation that any battery should be soldered, no, for IoTs. Again, they're just trying to ensure that even though there's a strong vibration in the car, that this critical, no, battery will not get dislodged easily. Okay, for the last part, no, what are now the differences between them? So again, Spiceworks has this cool and very informative graphics, no, where how do you determine if it's a cloud computing or edge computing? It's just where does the computation takes place. So in cloud computing, of course, it's in a cloud vendor or data center. In edge computing, it's happening on the devices itself or maybe at the edge gateway near the device. So speed and agility, in edge computing, no, you have, no, these solutions process analytics, no, with their computing powers and storage, no, as close to the data source as possible. This increases responsiveness, no, of decision making that you need to perform on these devices. On cloud computing, no, these are, well, maybe self-service needs. No? You have vast volumes of computing resources at your disposal with the limit of your credit card, of course. Uh, but you could, it's just a few clicks away. No? Again, uh, the problem that if you have encountered this during the pandemic, no, you need a server, you cannot buy it. No? They give you, the vendors would give you 180 to 360 days lead time. No? Hence, cloud computing stocks, no, actually increased significantly during the pandemic because now I have a card, I need a server, go to their self-service console, put in my card, and then I have a server that I could use and deploy. Productivity and performance, no, again, edge computing, they are close to the proximity of end users. So it's more responsive, less latency, um, you yield, no, a good amount of operational efficiency with this type of deployment. In cloud computing, no, again, you remove, no, the need for racking and stacking this compute power. No? Again, even though again during the pandemic, no, you are given 180 to 360 days, the device gets delivered to you. You're not gonna be able to set it up in a few hours or even a few days. No, chances are it has to be sent to the data center. Configure the OS, configure the software. It has to be tested. No? So it's gonna take some time. No? So again, the racking and stacking, at least on this, no, wouldn't be an issue, no, with cloud compute. Now, checking, no, for performance of compute power for edge computing. Consider again our devices on smartphones, no, as an edge device because, well, let's say on this graph form AFOL, no, they're trying to compute, no, how many teraflops of advanced neural engine transformers they could perform, no? Uh, sorry, as compared to their first one, A11 chipset with iPhone X that has 0.6 teraflops. The iPhone 13 with A15 chipset could compute 15.8 teraflops. And I would say even on most modern computers, no, this is a good benchmark, no, for uh, neural engine and machine learning processing. And that's A15, no? And if you could see here, that was 2021. And if you check out the Apple M4, no, this was released May last month, no? Um, 38 trillion. So that's around more than twice, no? The capacity of the A15, no? And that's just 3 years the gap, no? So it could with Apple M4, they could compute, no, 38 trillion peak operations per second at this day and age, no? Very impressive. And say Apple M4, that's a CPU for laptops. Actually, no. They released Apple M4 for iPad Pro right now. I haven't seen a MacBook or a MacBook Pro, no, that runs on Apple M4 yet. No, but of course they're going to be doing that, which is I would say a surprise, no, for a lot of Apple users, where they typically would release the chipset first on the MacBooks, but for the M4 they just straight jump to iPad, no, which it's technically an edge device, and they're trying to bring in, no, AI and machine learning on the device itself, no? I think in the next iOS release, no? So that's gonna be interesting because now, how they do, no? Let's say for the Siri or voice assistants, they would record your voice for your command on most of their devices, no? And they would send it to their cloud server, do processing there, and then send the command back to be executed on the device itself. Now, there has been some moves on the recent products, no, where they could do the voice processing on the device itself. No, that's a simple one. No, but with the amount of operations that they could perform with this advanced neural engine, they could do it pretty quickly with the low amount of power on the device itself. No, and not bother, no, the cloud environment, no, which takes some time and latency too. If you've used Siri or Google Assistants, no, Google Voice or Amazon Echo Dot, um, if it's an older device, you could see the latency that they are recording your voice, sending it to the cloud, processing it, and then sending the command back. So it was useful, it was nifty before, but it's now more responsive now if you could do the on-device processing itself. For scalability, this is on the advantage of cloud. No, you could scale depending on the amount of your credit limit. Zero downtime, even for large loads. No, if you could compensate again if you have the capacity to pay. No, and after, even if you don't have the capacity to pay, they would charge you anyway. Then you just have to negotiate. For edge computing, since these are physical equipment, no, typically you would now have to consider again the initial cost. And on a lot of instances, especially for deploying thousands of these edge devices, you might not have the option to get this from a single vendor. No? That's going to be an issue. No? So you need to be able to design your edge computing environment infrastructure to be able to use. No? Let's say for a sensor, no, to be used to able to use different devices from different vendors, or maybe just the battery capacity, no, or even when designing equipment, no, or electronics, no, typically you would have some good replacements for a specific component, no, in case there's a scarcity on those items, no. And that's going to be an issue, of course, in edge computing. Reliability, for edge computing, failover management is crucial because your devices would fail. There's a physical device, power outage, connectivity outage. So could you, if it's a very sensitive sensors for your telemetry, no, you might have to get, no, redundant sensors, no. And then for vendors, no, you typically would also want to implement redundant infrastructure, maybe two data centers or two cloud addresses, no, in case one goes down, which typically won't be the case. But if you need reliability, no, typically you would have two availability zones or data centers that's already pre-configured on the device or the edge gateway. Cloud computing, again, this one is a bit more reliable because, well, the infrastructure is being maintained by the vendor as compared to the edge computing that you're maintaining the device itself. No? So the centralized nature, the backup, the features, no, na you could subscribe to. No? It's just actually a point and click or API based. No? and typically less expensive because it's pay as you use. And if you're expecting, let's say, a lot of network traffic, no, for this day because it's a payday and you're a shopping center, no, you can increase it without any issue, and then downsize it, no, after those critical time of your operations. No. For security, again, main issue with edge computing is that it is physical. It could be threatened from by physical means. No? Again, that devices could be stolen or reverse engineered or configuration was could be done. No? And aside from that is yung security, no, of the transmission. If you did not enable security, then this transmission could be sent over the air via plain text. So you need to consider now, could it be intercepted? Could it be manipulated while in motion? Could I be getting, no, bad telemetry data because someone's attacking my infrastructure and creating smokes and mirrors? No? Like nothing wrong here, no? All the telemetry is okay, no, but your sensors actually failing, no, or reading something else, no. And it has been done in the past. No? Then there are issues that enable that kind of scenario to perpetrate. No? So for cloud computing, it's inherently more secure. Um, but do note, no, if you've been to our last week's course, no, there is only specific responsibility, no, for vendors in cloud computing. It depends on what kind of cloud computing you're in, no, infrastructure, platform, or software as a service. Um, but yeah, typically the hardware and the virtualization software is handled by the vendor, but the apps and the OS itself, no, especially for infrastructure as a service, it's being maintained, no, by the user. So while cloud is typically secure, we have a lot of misconception that if you move it to the cloud, you would be protected. So that's uh that's not true, so to speak. So there's a lot of cloud migration that I've seen that led to a compromise, no, or a breach because they thought that as long as you move to the cloud, you'll be protected, you know, with all these firewall swaps and everything. No, but that's not the case. You are responsible for your code. If your code has vulnerabilities that would cause, no, data leakage or code executions, no, unauthorized, for that matter, that's on you. That's not you cannot put a blame on the cloud vendor for that. Okay, so that ends our talk. Got here some key learning points, no, for your viewing. Just a summary of what we've been discussing for